Another film with Scott Adkins in it. I don't know how many times I got to say this, folks. I'm checking it out. Here we are with his new film, Section 8. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel today for another review. And today we're going to be reviewing the film Section 8, which is going to be in theaters and streaming on AMC Plus September 23rd. Yeah, I'm a huge Scott Adkins fan, but there's a lot of other folks attached to this film that are overly respected, especially when it comes to action films. We talk about Rourke, Dolph Lundgren, Dermot Mulroney, and then you have another favorite of mine, and Ryan Kwanten, who I'm like, Ryan in the action film? I am a little intrigued here. And it's not to say he hasn't done action films, but I mean, look at the caliber of action talent in this. And I mean, these folks are respected for either iconic roles or iconic films and just amazing fight and stunt choreography. So I instantly started to think, what is a Ryan Kwanten and Scott Adkins scene gonna look like? Because, Scott I feel is one of the most respected stunt actors, fight choreographers out there in all of Hollywood. So I was overly interested on that dynamic alone. But then Ryan always plays these very unorthodox characters filled with a lot of emotion. And that's where I think he just continues to just reinvent himself, because no matter if the type of roles are the same, the characters are drastically different. And if they're not actually different on paper, he truly makes them different on screen. So here we are again with another character, Jake, who is ex-military special forces. He is one of the best to ever do it. From one accident to another led him to be honorably discharged, and now he's just at home trying to be a family man. He's working at a mechanic shop with his uncle Earl, played by Mickey. And life is just kind of going on. Dolph character's Tom, was in the service with him, and since they've been out of the service, Colonel Tom Mason, by the way, he's always been there for him. So by being his colonel, they've always had that tight relationship. He's know what Jake's been through when he was enlisted, and then he, it's that life of after the service, readapting and fitting back into society. And that, Tom is somebody that Jake respects, he trusts, and Jake doesn't have a lot of that around him. And with all of the trauma that he's been through in the service to being honorably discharged, they have that close bond. And even when it seems like there's nobody else to turn to, Tom is always there for them. So that's that relationship with that. But anyway, Jake is just working a regular day at the shop with Earl, and a couple of gangsters roll up, situation one thing to the next, and Jake sort of de-escalates it, and he thinks that he can just go on with his day. But they didn't let it go. They instead rolled up on his family, ends up murdering his wife and his son, which is just completely, I mean, listen, if there's one thing I know, you never touch the kid, so this is just going to send, yet alone killing his wife, but killing his son was just, that did it for him. And Jake decided to take retaliation and revenge in his own hands, walking up into the club, killing every member of this gang, and he goes to jail. So with this sort of being, I thought, a film about revenge, and all of this kind of happened in like the first 20 minutes, I'm like, well, what's the rest of the film going to be? Well, the rest of the film is because now he has a special opportunity that could give him freedom. He's given an opportunity to enlist into a shadow government agency that recruits for off-book assignments. This is called Section 8. And when he thinks Section 8 is like the glitz and glam, it's really not. And that's the dynamic and the conflict of this film, is Jake discovering that grass may not be greener on the other side. But there's a couple other things I kind of want to, in terms of like understanding the character Jake, because Jake never wanted to be back into anything like this. He still has a lot of trauma going on from when he was in the service. He's still grieving the deaths of his wife and his son, and then you're just throwing him back into the action. And while yes, that gets him out of jail, it still doesn't like it doesn't give him that mental stability he needs to kind of move forward. And that's where Tom kind of comes into play, is trying to help create, you know, some balance for Jake. But, you know, it's one thing to the next, and while he thinks he's doing something for good, he questions everything beyond that. So that's sort of like, you know, the story here is the journey of Jake discovering what he really got himself into. Who can he trust? Because it seems like no one around him he can trust. And then this film is just filled with so many twists and turns from the characters, from the plot, that like as the viewers you start to suspect like what's really going on. That's part of the journey with this as well. So, you know, there's a lot of scandal going on in this. It's a lot of foreshadowing. I mean, you instantly start to be suspicious of characters. When you talk about Dermot's character Sam, the moment you see him, you're kind of like, something about that guy seems a little bit off. And then, you know, Scott character Leonard, he's a hitter, so he comes in and he does assignments, and it is what it is. And you know, there's a scene when we get Scott and Ryan squaring off, and it's everything I wanted it to be. I was a little worried. I was like, maybe Ryan can't keep up with Scott, but Scott is so good at fight and stunt choreography. He makes everyone around him, and to my surprise here, Ryan looked really good in this third act. And that's what you want out of these action films. You know, sometimes you don't need the plot to be so juicy. You just want really good stunts, explosions, actions, all those sorts of different things. And this one really brought it home with his third act, because in the beginning of the film, I definitely was like, yeah, there's a lot of extending disbelief here. Like, there was a lot of things I was just like, I'm not sure if I can buy into this. It just was completely impossible, unrealistic, and I was just instantly being uninvested because of just how things were just kind of transpiring. I'm just like, I just don't know if I can really get into this. But the music was on point. The music definitely was on point. There's some gore, there's some blood, you know, that type of stuff kind of going on. I did enjoy every character. I thought every character really brought something special, especially with this whole idea of not knowing who to trust. So you're just suspicious of every character, which actually suspicion is a form of investment. So you kind of like, I wonder what that person's up to. Whose side are they on? Are they good or they bad? Because there's a lot of different, it's a lot of twists and turns. There's ones that you just don't see coming. There's some that you're even suspicious that you may see coming, but then you're like, but why? You know what I mean? And then, like I mentioned, this is an all-star cast of icons in action cinema. Mickey, Dolph, Scott. I mean, come on now. So like, you know they're gonna do what they're gonna do, and they certainly did. But other than that, I think that you know, when you look at the parents here, like Ryan and Mickey, you know, you have this father-son relationship, because with Jake, Ryan's character, you know, kind of being a loner, especially outside of his family. You know, he didn't have his dad, but his uncle Earl was like his dad to him, and that bond that you kind of see on screen is a bit of motivation that drives this character Jake to places of protection. You know, he wants to make sure he looks out for his family, especially when he felt like he failed them. You know, and that is like that motivational factor makes this guy extremely dangerous, especially since he does not want to tap into his previous skills, but he will if he has to. And that's like what I really enjoyed about the film, is that I really thought they handled the character Jake very well, setting Ryan up to just be phenomenal like he usually is, especially when it comes to characters that's just filled with so much emotion. That's what you're getting with him. It's just like every single step, every single look, his mannerisms, you're just like, you could just feel the hurt in this character, because he lost his son and he lost his wife, and he sort of blames himself, but also he's on revenge. And then you think like, oh, maybe he has a second opportunity of life, which in this case would be his third, because after the military was kind of settling back into society, and that was his second chance. But now this becomes his third, and you're like, will he get this right? You know, will he be able to make peace with everything beforehand? And that's the journey and the struggle that we see with this character. So I enjoyed this film. I think all that aside, if you just want some good action, you're certainly going to have that as well too. So check out Section 8 in theaters and streaming on AMC Plus September 23rd. Jump in the comments, folks. Let me know your thoughts about this, your excitement, your hype, all that other good stuff. And as always, stay tuned for more reviews very soon.
Adkins.